Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Review. My name is Jeff and today we're going to be taking a look at 4 of the different Game of Thrones Diageo release single malt Scotch whiskies. Now there are 8 total of these that came out. I believe they were released in 2018. Might have to correct myself if I'm wrong about that. There are 8 total of these that came out under the Diageo umbrella. Diageo is a huge company that owns tons of different distillery brands, from whiskey to vodka, gin, tequila, anything you can think of. They probably own a company under that umbrella. So they're a huge company, I think one of the biggest in the world, if not the biggest. And they teamed up with Game of Thrones to release 8 different bottles from different distilleries in Scotland. And these are all single malt Scotch whiskies. So each one of these is 100% malted barley from one specific distillery. To list off the different ones that they came out with, there's House Targaryen, which is the Cardew. That's this one right here. There is the House Stark, which is the Dalwhinnie. That's this one here. Their name for this one is Winter's Frost. The Cardew one is just called the Gold Reserve. The next one is House Lannister, and that is going to be the Lagavulin, which is a peated one that gets a lot of fanfare. The 4th one is House Tully. That's the Singleton from Glendolyn. That's this bottle right here. The next one is House Tyrell, which is the Clynelish Reserve. That's this bottle here. Those are kind of the 4 I have, I guess, to go through. This would be the Dalwhinnie, the Cardew, the Clynelish, and the Singleton by Glendolyn. The other ones that I don't have, some of them, there's House Baratheon, which is the Royal Lochnagar. I could be mispronouncing that, I apologize if I am. There's House Greyjoy, which is Talisker. Now, I know that's another peated one that a lot of people are familiar with. And then the last one is the Night's Watch, which is the Oban Distillery. So again, to go through those 8 distilleries, there's the Cardew, the Dalwhinnie, Lagavulin, the Singleton by Glendolyn, Clynelish, the Royal Lochnagar, Talisker, and Oban. Those are the 8 distilleries from the Diageo releases. Now those are all the ones that came out in these fancy canisters and kind of had all the same stylings with the bottles for the single malt Scotch whiskies. Now Diageo also owns Johnnie Walker, which is one of the most, again, if not the most well-known blended Scotch out there. Now they came out with at least 3 different Game of Thrones specific ones. They had Fire, which was Targaryen. It had a dragon on the front. I believe it was like a red bottle. They had Ice, which was the Stark with the wolf on the bottle. And then there was also a White Walker one, which kind of was I believe was one of the first Game of Thrones bottles that came out. So I believe all of these came out, I think it was 2018, if I remember correctly. I'm a really big Game of Thrones fan, so I was really excited when these came out. A lot of these range from 30 at the lowest to, creeping up on 80, I think, for the Oban and the Lagavulin, and kind of in between there. So, a lot of these are going to be, even though they're limited release, they're going to be kind of in that lower to mid range as far as scotches go. None of these were $200 or anything crazy like that. Mostly widely available for people that can find them. As of filming this right now in November 2020, I think you can still find quite a few of these bottles on some shelves. Total Wine, some of your bigger ones are going to have quite a few of these, I think, still sitting. I don't think they were super popular in a lot of different places. I don't know if people just thought it was kind of a gimmicky thing, so they stayed away from them. They got some popularity, but again, I don't know how quickly that dropped off. So you can still find some of these, I believe, on the shelves as of right now. I don't know how long they're going to stick around. I've seen prices come down on some of these lately, so I think they're trying to get rid of some of them. But I thought it'd be fun to do a whiskey rumble, so kind of a blind flight of 4 of these. Now, these are the only 4 of the 8 that I have. I'm going to try and get some of the others. Again, if I can see a good price on them in the near future, it'd be kind of cool. These are kind of like collector's items. If you really like Game of Thrones, either the books or the show or both. You know, they're just a cool collectible thing. And if you like whiskey, even better. You know, these aren't kind of the things that I would think people that hate whiskey would be buying. But anyways, these are all from the Speyside or the Highland region, which means there are, I think, one or two, you know, oddballs in those regions that are peated once in a while, which give it that really smoky flavor. But all of these are going to be, from what I understand, non-peated. So they're going to have more of that like buttery, kind of floral, herbal thing going on, a sweeter, and non-smoky. So I thought these would be good. The only thing that might stand out the most is that the Clynelish is a 51.2% ABV. I should say that the Singleton is 40% ABV. The Dalwhinnie is 43% ABV, and the Cardew is 40% ABV. So the Clynelish is really the one that kind of stands out as having the higher proof or the higher ABV. That might stick out in comparing these. I was hoping it wouldn't, but again, these are the only four that I have of the Game of Thrones line. So I'm just gonna throw it in there anyways and see what happens. So this will be a little different. Instead of rating each of these or going into like the history of the distillery and stuff like that, I'm gonna try and keep it shorter and just go down the line, start with A here, B, C, D. Just try to get a quick nose and a palate notes for each one of them and just see which ones I like the best. You know, try to get an order by the end of it. So I'll go A through D, and then I'll go D back up through A. I'm gonna turn the camera off, do some A/B testing just on some of the ones that I didn't back to back, just because sometimes that can affect the flavors that you get in some of them if you taste a different one before. And then at the end, I'll just kind of reveal which one I like the best. And again, this is blind, so I know which four of these are total, but I don't know which one is which one, if that makes sense. A double blind would be if I had no idea what any of these four were. You know, I just knew they were Scotches, but I do kind of have an idea, you know, as far as the four. But it's been a long time since I've had any of these. The only one I haven't tried yet is actually the Dalwhinnie, which is this one, the Stark bottle. I also explained that each one of these like is a different house or a family from the Game of Thrones show and books. So if you're wondering, you know, what all the different names were, that's what it is. Each distillery corresponds to a different house from or family from the show and the books. All right, without further ado, I have these coasters on the Glencairns just to kind of keep the aromas and the flavors in there so they don't evaporate while I'm, you know, waiting and doing this. So there should be some good air in these, but without letting it evaporate. So we'll start with A here. When I edit this, I'll put the, you know, the distilleries on the screen for you guys so you know what I'm tasting, but I have no idea what, you know, any of these four are. All right, let's go with the nose for letter A here. Ooh, that's got a good nose on it. So I know that on a lot of Speysides and Highland Scotches, anything that's not peated, a really big note for me that I get is green apple, or just apple in general, but it seems to be kind of that sour green apple flavor that I get on the nose and sometimes on the palate as well. That's kind of what I'm getting on this one right off the bat. There's definitely some honey, some like kind of floral aspects in there. I don't know flowers super well, so when I say floral, you know, you can just picture like if you go into a flower shop, just kind of that bouquet, or like wildflowers if you're running through a field or something like that, just that floral kind of generalized scent that you get. It definitely smells sweet. There isn't really a whole lot of like spice or anything going on there. It's mostly kind of a little bit of butterscotch, honey, definitely some ripe fruit. So I'm gonna be taking just a few notes on the side here too, just to help me remember. All right, I think that's enough for the nose. Now let's go in for a taste. Cheers. So once again, I know that there's gonna be one of these that has a little bit more proof than the other three. and I'm gonna try not to let that affect my, my judgment, I guess. You know, sometimes you just feel like in a mood for just a nice easy sipper, and that could be 40%, no problem. Some people like a little bit higher proof. When it comes to bourbons, I like more of that kind of 100 proof range or the 50% ABV. That seems to be my wheelhouse for bourbons, but for Scotch, it seems to not matter as much. As long as there's some good flavors there. You know, a lot of times 40% is what you're gonna find a lot of Scotch at, so it doesn't seem to matter as much. So this has just a little bit of burn to it, not too much. I'm gonna try another flavor here, another drink, just to kind of see what flavors are coming. Sometimes a lot of times on the first drink, it's hard to really pick out the flavors because it kind of shocks your palate a little bit. So that one's coming off a little bit more floral on the palate than I was getting on the nose. It's very good. The sweetness is still there, the honey, a little bit of fruit, but I am getting more kind of the herbs and the floral part of it that's sticking out on the palate. That one's pretty good. You can tell it's a Scotch. It's got that maltiness to it, but it's good. I'm gonna take a quick drink of water in between each of these, just to kind of cleanse the palate a little bit. All right, on to B. Try to do this as quickly as possible here. So this one is not jumping out at me, or not as much on the nose as jumping out as the first one was. Again, I just opened this Dalwhinnie, so sometimes when you get like a shoulder pour, it's called, or a neck pour, where you just open the bottle and pour it, sometimes you don't get as much of the oxygen in there to open up the flavors and the scents as much as you would say a bottle that's like a third of the way gone or half the way gone. It's just had more chance to open up with the oxygen. I'm hoping that doesn't do the Dalwhinnie a disservice at all. I'm hoping that, you know, it can stand the test, or, you know, stand up to these other ones, even though that it wasn't opened and these other ones had been for just a little bit. So anyways, we're going for another nose. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of honey, like a little bit of that green apple, but it's just not really jumping out of the glass like letter A was. Definitely seems a little bit more kind of subdued or subtle. If I had to guess, I would say this might be one of the 40%ers, but you know, I'm not gonna try to guess at the ABV. That's not really the point of this. Let's try for the palate now. So unlike A, where the nose and the palate kind of matched up or meshed really well, this one's kind of thrown me for a loop as far as the nose to the palate, because there is that little bit of sweetness, but I'm getting a lot of like just floral and spice on the palate on this one, where I could not pick that out on the nose at all. So I'll try one more sip here. Yeah, this one it's drinking a lot spicier and hotter than the nose was giving off, for sure. I'd say it's a pleasant surprise. I was hoping it wasn't going to be really soft and subtle and just kind of uneventful. I can't really tell what spice that is, but it's drinking hotter for sure than I was expecting. There is a little bit of that, you know, honey, green apple, and fruits, floral, things like that. Those are going to be a lot of kind of common threads throughout all four of these, because they're all from Speyside or Highland. The Singleton is a Speyside. The Clynelish is a Highlands region. The Cardew is Speyside, and then the Dalwhinnie, actually, from what I looked up, can be considered a Highlands or a Speyside, because it's kind of like right on the border of those two regions. So again, these are all kind of in the same area. Highlands and Speysides are very similar. They're going to be more of the honey, sweet, fruity, floral notes. You know, not so much of the brine or the peat or the smoke that you'll find in the Islay and Island ones. So that's why I thought these four would be good to pair up against each other, because, you know, a lot of the notes are going to be similar, but hopefully just slightly different. So yeah, this one just has a lot more spice going on with it, which, you know, again, just depending on your palate, you might like, you might dislike. All right, so now I'll go to C. Going for the nose. But I forgot how much fun it is to kind of A/B compare. it's been a while since I've done this. I've just been doing a lot of like single bottle reviews or single whiskey reviews. And I think honestly, this is probably the most fun that, you know, a quote unquote serious whiskey drinker, you know, someone who's looking to get into the flavors can have with whiskey. Just even if it's just comparing two of them just to see which one you like, or, you know, to see what you're picking out that specific day and that specific time. You tend to pick out more things than you would if you just drink one by itself. So all of these kind of have a lot of similar notes and flavors and stuff going on, but so far all three of these are different enough where, you know, they're their own distinct whiskey, and that's kind of cool to me. All right, so this one is kind of reminding me a little bit more of A on the nose. Yeah, this one is coming off, again, a little bit sweeter. There's kind of the honey. I'm getting a little bit more caramel and butterscotch on this one. Not quite as much fruit, so more along the lines of that kind of like syrupy sweetness. There is still some ripe fruit coming off on the nose though, and again, a little bit of kind of floral notes as well. All right, cheers. Let's take a sip of this one. So this one, out of the three so far, I'd say is the most subtle, the most subdued, as far as like both the appeared proof, or you know, what I assume would be the proof. There's really no ethanol burn to this one at all. There's just some really nice sweet, again, honey, floral notes going down, some sweet fruits. There's a lot of that apple in here. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this one. It seems the most, I'd say maybe balanced out of the three so far. You know, there's really not a lot sticking out that makes it super different, but this to me so far is like, if I had to say what a, you know, quintessential Speyside or Highland Scotch would be, this is pretty much taking the cake for that so far. This is really good. I'm gonna set this one down and go to the next one. Again, this is the first run through. Second one will be quicker. I'll just, you know, not gonna describe each of them as much, but I'll just kind of go through and see if anything's really changed from what I remember it. All right, so on to the last one here, letter D. It's going for the nose. Ooh, all right, so this one, out of all four of these, is right off the bat like the sweetest that I'm getting on the nose here. Yeah, that's just like straight up honey, caramel apple, really sweet. I technically generally prefer a sweeter whiskey, whether it comes to bourbon or a Scotch, and Irish too, Japanese, all that kind of stuff. I tend to like sweeter whiskeys, but not, you know, sometimes spice is good too. Let's see kind of how the palate unfolds here. So far, out of the four, just on this first pass, this one might be standing out as my favorite so far. It seems to have the most evolution as far as the palate goes. Again, the nose is super sweet, and the palate starts off really sweet, kind of with that honey, caramel apple thing going on. And then in the mid palate, there's like this spike of spice that reminded me a lot of letter B, just not quite as much punch as that had. And then it kind of, on the tail end of it, more so the finish, I guess you'd say, it kind of goes back into that sweetness. Again, that honey, caramel, butterscotch, toffee thing going on. Try one more sip here, but again, we'll see how it compares with the rest when I A/B test these, but this might be the winner. Okay, so I've got my notes down here, and I've got my pick order. So I guess we'll go last to first. That way it doesn't reveal the first place right away. So in last place, I'm actually going to pick letter B. Now, this one again, there's just something about it that I'm not quite enjoying as much. It almost has this like really powerful, like a black pepper spice. I mean, even from the get-go, it's not just on the finish, it's beginning, middle, and end. It's just this really overpowering kind of spice on it, which, again, none of these I will say are bad scotches by any means, especially for the price. You know, if you're looking to try something new, I think each one of them brings a little bit something different. It was fun to kind of compare these because, like I said, each one of them has their own distinctive character. So they're all Speyside or Highland scotches. They all have a lot of similarities to them, and some common notes ringing throughout all of them as well. But you know, I can pick out a difference between all four of them, and I think most, you know, people would if you're just really paying attention. So again, this one had that spice, that burn. It just wasn't my favorite. Again, with bourbon, I think that, again, if it is the clynelish, if it is the proof, I just don't think it's really working with this one, but I could be wrong. It, you know, it could be one of these other ones. Third place, we're gonna go with letter A. This one, again, this one was really good. I enjoy it. It didn't really have anything like bad about it. It's just that C and B had a little bit more balance to them. I'm sorry, C and D had a little bit more balance to them. Just a little bit more that kind of sweeter profile that I gravitate towards. But this one does have all of that same honey, green apple, floral, butterscotch, toffee thing going on for it. Third place, go to letter A. Second place, we're gonna go with letter C. Now, again, this is the one that it was very close with letter A. Those two were the two that kind of were closest as far as flavors to me. You know, as far as being very similar to each other, I guess. C is also very sweet, kind of honey forward with that floral green apple thing going on. It just seemed to have not less astringency necessarily, but just seemed to be more balanced than A was. I think it might maybe had a little bit more sweetness. There's just something about it that put it over the top of A for me. So third place, we're gonna go with letter C. And that leaves letter D as the winner. Now, again, this one, like I said, it had the most going on with it for me. It had the most evolution as far as starting out somewhere, going somewhere else, and then coming back. Started off sweet, went to kind of the spice area, and then came back to sweet again. Yep, that's gonna be the winner for me. I definitely enjoyed that one, I think, above all others. Not that the other ones are bad, again, but that one just, again, for this specific point in time, that's my favorite. So now we'll go for the reveal. All right, so now I've got the list in front of me. I'd like to thank my lovely fiance Jessica for pouring these for me blind so that I could do this. All right, so letter A, which came in third place for me, was the House Targaryen or the Cardew. So that's this one here. This was a 40%er. B, which came in last place, I guess correctly, was the clynelish, this one here. So that was the 51.2%. I believe that's what it was. Yes, 51.2% ABV. So again, this one stuck out kind of on the second time through, really, is when I picked up on it, that that proof just was like, I don't know if it's overpowering. It just kind of had that peppercorn note that was just overpowering to me, and it kind of muted all of the sweetness, like from the honey and a lot of that malt sweetness that you'd normally get. So that's why it came in last place for me. But again, I'd still drink it. It's not bad. It's just compared to the other ones, wasn't my favorite. C, which was this one, was the Dalwhinnie. So that came in second place for me. That was the one that I hadn't had yet before. So, you know, I'm glad that that's a good solid second place. And then first place, D, was actually the House Tully, which was the Singleton by Glendolyn. And it's weird enough that that's the one that I've had the most so far. I think the bottle's maybe a third of the way full, maybe a little bit more than that. So again, I don't really remember what any of these tasted like, but that one to me just came out as the best one for me. And again, weirdly enough, I think that's the least expensive out of all of these, if I can remember right. depending on the area that you live in and any kind of deals that your liquor store might have going on. This one, I think the MSRP right now is like around 30 bucks. So you should be able to find it for 30, 35 bucks if you can still find it. That's just it's a really good one. You know, that one to me stuck out as just being the most balanced, the sweetest, and kind of your quintessential Speyside Scotch whiskey. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I'll try to edit this a little bit to make it a little shorter. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing this. I've wanted to do this for a little while now. So, you know, hopefully you got something out of it, either entertainment, maybe you might want to try one of these bottles soon, or just if you see any of the other four. I can't speak for those. Again, the Lagavulin and the Talisker are both going to be on the peatier side. So if you like peated scotches, kind of that smoky, briny thing going, you will probably like the Lagavulin or the Talisker, or both of them. If you don't like smoky ones, you know, you can go with the Oban, what was the other one that I don't have? The Royal Lachnagar. I really don't know anything about that distillery, so I don't know if it's peated or not. I'll try to get, you know, some of these other ones if I can, if I see them for a good price. Like I said, I think they're coming down in price just because the stores are trying to make room on the shelves, and these are limited releases and they're just trying to get rid of them. So if you can find them, I recommend them. I think they're pretty good, you know, bargains for what they are. Yeah, so I have I've got an Instagram and a Patreon if you guys want to follow, support me on those, that'd be awesome. Thanks for watching. Again, I hope you had fun. We'll see you the next time, and we'll go with the D here because that sounded, I'm gonna have to rephrase that. We'll go with letter D here because this was my favorite. So toast, keep on sipping.